Testing. Testing. Well, all right. Maybe louder. Well, I don't know. Last time we tried to make it louder, we were getting microphone clipping, but I can give it a try. Let's see how that sounds. Testing, testing. I'm talking so I can hear myself talk. Testing, testing. I'm talking so I can hear myself talk. Testing, testing. That doesn't seem bad. So I'm not going to answer off-topic programming language. Like when people ask me a programming language question that's answered many times in the videos or whatever, it's like, you know, if I stop to answer that kind of thing every time someone asks it, then we'll never get anything new done. So I'm going to stay away from that kind of question. Well, give people another few seconds to get here. Someone mentioned me in my language in the 4chan thread and people got really angry. Well, that's really strange. I'm sure they're all programming language design experts who got angry. Not. Do I know the game's stories untold? No, I don't. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to wait till my tea finishes steeping so I can take the tea bag out and then we will start. I don't want to forget it and leave it in too long and then have bad tea all day. Okay, I'm going to lower the volume a tiny bit. A tiny bit. Let me turn some lights on. Isn't it amazing that we have the technology to just turn a bunch of lights on like that? It's pretty cool. Like, I didn't even stop to think what happens if it doesn't work when I turn these switches and the lights don't come on? Which I do think all the time when I use computers, so I don't know what that means. Okay, let's get started. In the previous sort of work session, I had been working my way through, oh, my webcam is crooked, it's bothering me. Hopefully that's okay. In the previous work session, I had been sort of plowing through this to-do list, and then, you know, earlier today I was thinking, well, maybe I should just stop a second and start to make more real slides. And then I thought, well, so one thing that I want, so a feature that we did last time was styles, right? So you can define a style of font and reuse that. And I was like, okay, I should make some slides that use that. And then I thought, well, while I'm at it, there's probably at least one more feature that I should implement. And that is to like reuse slides. So you can make a slide that's a template. Like if you broke your presentation into sections and you had like section 1 and section 2 and section 3, and each section was like a different color and had like a different thing at the top to remind people of where you are. That's the sort of thing I want to do all the time. I'm sure you can do it in PowerPoint, but it's such a pain in the butt, I don't remember how to do it. So I want to make that easy to do here. So I'm going to add an item to the to-do list, which is reuse slides as templates, or however you want to say it, right? So I'm going to be able to make a slide that's got like a heading that works for part of my presentation and use it where it's relevant, and then later on switch to a different one and so forth, right? So basically including a slide in another slide. And later on, we might even add the ability to do that and, you know, scale it or rotate it or something. So if you wanted the slide just down in the corner as a reference to what you were just talking about and so forth, then you could do that. But so far, I'm not even going to worry about that. I'm only going to use these things as templates or whatever, as shared content where you change the thing once and it affects every slide that uses it. And then I think we're going to proceed down in this order. We're going to finally allow me to type multiple lines, and we'll get auto layout, and then we'll start loading images, and then we'll make colored rectangles on the screen. And then by the time we've done all this, and we have this, then we could start actually making some slides almost, although until we have variables, that's going to be a little bit interesting. So any questions about that, about what we're planning to do today? Do you render all of the slides at once to textures? Someone is asking. Not right now. Like right now, I just render one slide at a time to a back buffer, but like later on, we're going to want to do that. We're going to want to render a slide to an off-screen surface and then reuse that off-screen surface, in part because that's one of the major ways you would do effects and transitions and whatnot, and also it's just going to be useful when it comes to displaying more than one slide at a time. Will you be able to rotate the rectangles? I don't know, man. We'll see what we do when we do it. All right. So let's make sure we still compile. We do, and we still run. We do, which is good because I have really not changed anything since last time. Last time, if you weren't here, we did fonts. So you see we're using different fonts and different sizes and different colors, and you can define a style of font and reuse it. And so, and different justifications. So right justification, center, left, etc. We did all that last time. So let's do let's do reusing slides as templates. So we don't have a graphical editor at this time. So we're defining our slideshow with this file. And we declare all the fonts at the beginning. We declare any styles we're going to use, and then we just start saying slide, 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 slide. Now, what I'm going to want to do, so first, I'm going to make a slide, and I'm going to call it template. And then let's just do some things. So let's have a background color. I mean, we could copy this whole slide for now. We'll make this more real later, right? Anyway, so that's our template slide. So we haven't named any slides yet, so we're going to want to have the ability to name something. And then the thing is, when you declare a template, I think you want to be able to say whether it's in the slideshow or not, right? Like maybe I'm just defining an invisible slide, so no, I don't want it to be visible, or maybe I want it to be visible and then refer to it later, so I'll just say yes. So I'm going to say no for now. So this might not be the only reason that you want to name a slide, right? You might want to link to it from another slide or something. So yeah. All right, so hopefully that makes sense to people. I do almost always have some sort of problem with PowerPoint, it's true. Will my internationalization library come in handy for this, since you already did parsing of language files with variable names, etc.? Probably. I mean, when we get to the point where we're trying to make this useful to other people, we'd probably translate all the strings and internationalize it using that same stuff. But it's not really something I'm going to think about for a while, because I want to make it be a good program first. Okay, so I want to be able to name a slide and say whether or not it's visible, and then later on here for this no, that wasn't it, I'm going to say, that's the last slide in the show, I'm going to say use slide template, right? Which then we want to go back and draw everything here, and then we'll just draw whatever over it. And this is going to just happen in order, so maybe we could use multiple slides in order or whatnot. Probably if you set a background color, we'll end up using whatever the last background. Really, for any of the slide global properties, we'll probably end up using whichever were the last ones, but text properties will stay glommed onto whatever text. Anyway, so we'll make sure this works, and then we can set up some kind of situation with more involved template usage. So the first thing that happens is if we run this, it's going to complain at least about use slide not being defined, and it might complain about junk at the end of the line there if I did that. Now it's not complaining about the junk, but it's complaining about use slide. For a long time, I'm getting rid of this other main for a second. So we've been setting current slide index to 1 just as a test, so we're going to change that back to 0 and start on the first slide, which is this template slide that we're going to reuse, right? And since we've said no here, it's not visible, then once this is fully working, then we won't see this slide first. So let's recompile and show when we start up, that slide will be first. So once it's working, this slide won't be first anymore, it'll be that slide, right? And that's before we even do use slide. I just want to do parsing named slides. So let's do that. So we're parsing our slide commands. Here I want to say if RHS, right? If the whatever's after the command is not an empty string, and recall that all spaces have already been trimmed, so we don't have to think about that. If RHS will say slide name and visibility is break by spaces RHS, if I actually want to define these out here because I want them to be accessible in the rest of this body. And I want this to be visibility name. So if, well actually, here, let's do this. Attempted slide name and visibility name, we declare new things. And I'm saying attempted slide name because if you try to use a slide name twice, we will reject that. Okay, so if not attempted slide name and visibility name, error handler unable to parse slide name and visibility. Actually, let's do the following. We'll make the visibility optional because there's no reason not to do that in a text format. So if visibility name is equal to, well, it could be yes, it could be no, it could be the empty string if there was nothing at the end of the line, or it could be the default, in which case we say error handler unrecognized visibility type. Valid options are yes, no, and leaving it blank. And visibility name. Okay, if visibility name is yes, come on, then visibility equals true. If it's no, visibility equals false. If it's the empty string, we do nothing. All right, so that's all good. Okay, so now attempted slide name, we want to assert that's not empty because it shouldn't be empty because RHS wasn't empty. And so break by spaces shouldn't. Okay, so we don't have a repository of slides, but I'm going to look for it. So slide found is table find result dot slide name table and attempted slide name. So this is going to be just a hash table that maps the name to a pointer to a slide. But if we found one, we're going to error attempt to redefine slide whatever. Right? Otherwise, if we didn't find it, then we'll say slide name equals attempted slide name. Okay. And down here, if we got a slide name, then we want to add it to that table. Table add result.slide name table copy strings slide name and slide. So now we have to make that table. That's a table that takes string to a slide pointer. I don't know. That won't compile. Oh, it did. All right. Well, hey, it appeared to do something. Now, we're not using that visibility Boolean, right? So we could do that next. So if the visibility is not true, we just won't add it to the slide array. It'll still be in the hash table, but it won't be in there. Now, for the purposes of freeing slides, let's put it somewhere else, because we're going to want to free slides later or something, and we might want to be able to iterate over all slides. So I'm going to say there's a duplicate array which contains every slide, whether it's visible or not, and then this array slides is only the ones that are being shown. And I'm going to make a note, these are only the slides that will be shown. Maybe we want a better name here. And then all slides is, this contains every slide, including templates not used in the presentation sequence. Right? Okay. Hey, we started on the next slide, so that's good. Now we just have to use that slide, because we're not, you know, we want to see it here. We want to see that radio connected to my brain slide. Is this making sense so far? Do people get what's happening? Enemy Mouse says, you mean for the template function? Well, so I assume that's the internationalization question. I'm not sure for what template function. We're not talking about replacing strings inside the slide at this time, although we might later. So I have to say I don't understand the question. Will I render updates at a fixed time step like a game, or render update when needed to limit CPU, GPU usage to a strict minimum? I am tempted, so most slideshow programs do the general application thing of, you know, dirty rectangling the screen and stuff. I would like to do a slideshow program that has, you know, subtle effects and, you know, game style production values, but that are tasteful. And so I think I'm probably just going to render every frame, but with an option, like you can push a button to drop it to a low frame rate or something, right? That's my presumption. We'll see how it goes. You know, the point of this is I'm designing it to be something different than what people usually do. Will I release this as open source? Yes. Eventually, when the compiler gets released, this will be included as sample code. Okay. So we have to do the use slide. And so that's going to be like another content item. Let me see. So we're going to have case, whoops. We're going to be here. Delete this because it's just annoying me. We're going to have a use slide, and if we don't have an RHS, use attempt to use slide, but the name of the slide to use is blank. Continue. Okay, so otherwise, table find. So we want to say slide found is table find, slide name table, RHS. If not found, we error again. Attempt to use the slide whatever, but that slide is not defined, comma, RHS. Otherwise, we do the following. So just like we have make text, okay, so remember how we had this thing. An item in a slide can be a text or an image so far, and we're not even implementing images yet. We're going to do something, it's going to be a bit of a funny name, but we're going to say slide used slide. And that's going to be another subclass of this. And other, it's going to have a member called other slide. That's a pointer to a slide. And I'm going to say item is a new slide use slide. Item.type equals slide use slide. That's how people will know what it is. Item.other slide equals slide array add current slide items item. Okay, now when we draw, current slide dot items. So for every item, we draw the item, and we have to draw the items in order, and right now we're ignoring everything but text. So I guess I'm going to break this into routines. I'm going to say if it dot type is equal to slide image, that's incomplete, slide text, we're going to draw something, right? Or slide used slide. It reminds me of Spy versus Spy, the old comic, and old video game. Right, so we're going to like do that kind of a thing. And so we're going to factor this down here into draw slide text, the slideshow slide it, right? So it is the current item that we're iterating. And once I've got this compiling, then I'll add something for use slide, right? Okay. So draw slide text, slideshow slide is a slide, and item. Actually, we'll cast that on the way in. Right, so we call it text item, and we're going to do some stuff, and hopefully that's enough. Yeah, okay. So in the case of slide used slide, we're going to say draw used slide, cast to slide used slide it. All right. So draw used slide is really just gonna do this, right? So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna say draw single slide, the slide show slide, right? And draw use slide isn't going to do anything special. That's just going to be like draw a single slide, show slide, and draw a single slide. Whoops. Not that, this is the slide that we came from. We want, and this isn't, we're going to call it, just call it item here. And this is item.otherSlide, which we defined a little bit back. And then show slide, and we just do that, and that, and that. Okay, there. Hey, okay, that all worked. Except we didn't do the background color, right? We didn't inherit the background color. But we have that slide, and we also have our slide. And if you can see, the no that wasn't it is being drawn on top, right? It's covering up the D from connected a little bit. What do I want to do about background colors? Do I want to... I feel like that should be an option to use slide, don't you? Like yes, I want to inherit the background, or no, I don't. Does that make sense to people, or do people have a different idea about that? Multiply the background colors. For something like multiplication, I think you would want to explicitly request that. I'm not sure how that would be useful, honestly. Okay, you know what? Here's what I think. I think we're going to make it inherit the background color all the time. And then if you want to set your own background color, then just set it after you say use slide, right? So we can do that. So this one should get the background color of blue or whatever it was from that one. Yeah, it's kind of blue. And then we'll make another one that has the Hello Sailor background instead, and we're going to do that by using the slide and then setting the background afterward. Okay, so what are the properties? Is background the only one that we need to copy? Oh, the margins. I feel like we don't copy the margins. This may be a mistake, but I feel like we don't copy the margins. So let's just do this. Oh, we forgot to check our check slide property, right? So we want to make sure that we have a current slide before we can use a slide. And then once we know we have a current slide, we could say current slide. That's good that I remembered this, otherwise we would crash if we tried to do this before we defined a slide, because we would try to add to this and the current slide would be null. So we're going to say current slide.background color equals slide.background color. All right. So there we go. So that one gets the background color and that one doesn't. Does, doesn't, does, doesn't, does, doesn't. So I guess what I'm going to do now is make some kind of mildly realistic example of a template and reuse it a few times. What if you want the text on your slide to start with a colon? I don't know. Insert a Unicode non-breaking space or something. Template should set the default for everything. I guess that's true. That seems true to me. So, I don't know. Maybe it's not true. We'll find out. We're not even using margins yet, so who cares, but yeah. Okay, someone's asking, why am I making my own programming language? There's a whole playlist on YouTube that'll explain that and then show a bunch of demos of the language. So I recommend, if you're genuinely curious, of watching those. Okay. Well, let's make the slideshow, instead of having all these garbage slides. Oh, we can hot load, first of all, right? So while I'm developing my template, I'm going to make a first slide. Section 1 is going to be the name of it. And hi, this is the first slide, right? Okay, so that's good. I had never tested omitting the visibility word yet, I don't think, and that works. It's visible and stuff. Okay, and you know, the rest of our slideshow is still there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is like at y.85 and justify right and margin. I don't have a way to set the margins yet, do I? No, we don't. So we're going to add that. Let me put that on the to-do list. Because, all right. So I'm going to say size 7 and 1, the first section, right? And then we're going to have a slide called section 2. That's the same, but it says to the second section. And we're going to have a slide called section 3. 3, the third and final section. Okay, so you might have those as just like section headings, and when we have lines or something, you might put a line at the bottom of it, right? So now I'm going to make these not visible. So now we're back to that. But I'm going to use section 1, section 1, section 2, section 2, and then section 3, and we'll get rid of our template. And template was, yeah. Okay, so this is define templates for section headers. The actual slides begin here. All right, so section 1, section 1, section 2, section 2, section 3. That's great. It's totally. Let's make the color a little bit let's see. So just to show that we can edit the template and we're not on the first slide or anything, we'll say text color 0.5, 0.5, 0.51. That's not bright enough. Actually, let's alpha it. Let's call it 111.5. How's that? 0.65. So we can alpha it and it'll blend into whatever the background color is. Does PowerPoint even do that with text? Maybe it does now. So you can see if I make it really faint, well, let's make it less faint than that. You can see how it's actually blending into the background color there. And it's also, I'm drawing all the text with like a drop shadow, so it's got a drop shadow behind it helping emphasize it. That's classy, man. We're already getting dividends. All right. We're going to use that color for everything. So, you know, we can have little section headers. Questions about that? That by itself would be enough for me to feel happy with what we're doing, but it's time to continue, I think. PowerPoint is really slow when you start alpha blending stuff. They probably do it in software in a really horrible way, probably, right? And the UI sucks to do it. Yeah, I've never even tried because the UI for normal PowerPoint things drives me insane. Like even just trying to use images just drives me insane. So trying to like alpha blend stuff is beyond anything. It seems like you'd want margin values to work the same as text size as a percentage of window size. Yeah, that's how I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Oh, well, let's do that, right? Because that's another small feature, is the ability to set margins. And I'm just going to say, I'm just going to make separate commands called left margin and right margin. And let me test that by doing this. I'm going to say right margin O.04, and then I'm going to set it back to 1, or O.1, right? Because I want this thing to be poking off to the right, but people who use me, I want them to get a different margin. Now, maybe instead of saying O.1, we want this way to say default, or like push the right margin and then pop it, but I'm loath to go too far in that direction simply because like later when we have a graphical interface for doing this stuff, that'll probably give us a natural way to express these things more, and going too far into a text language is not, like this whole text language probably goes away at some point and gets replaced by something else. So I don't want to rat hole too much on making it powerful or whatever. I just want to do the straightforward things that make sense to do for now. So let's just say, well, left margin and right margin. We don't have top or bottom margins right now, and I'm not sure that we will. So we check those. And then we say float, string to float. I'm not even going to check unable to read margin value. I'm not even going to check that it's not massively negative or something. It's just like, okay, current slide dot right margin equals F. Right, and then this is the same but left margin. All right. So that didn't appear to do anything. And the reason it doesn't do anything is because we changed the margin back. So this is interesting. Because we're not using the margin at the time when we set the text. We're using the margin of whatever it is on the slide at the end. So here, okay, we're able to, let's just show that we're able to edit the right margin, right? So one, the first section, we're using this template, so we can say right margin 0, and we're all the way, right? Or right margin 0.2. But you'll notice that it's affecting both things. So this is a little bit of a weakness in the current representation. So one thing we could do is every time we add a text to the slide, we copy the margin value into the text entity and use that. I'm not sure, like that would solve this specific problem. I'm not sure if it's a good long-term solution. What do people think about that? Can a template slide use another template slide? Yes, it can. Okay, let's prove that. So we'll do this slide base that's not visible, and we'll say justify left. We'll do an even tinier text, 0.92, size 5. Justify left, we'll call this one tiny, right? This text is tiny. That's probably not tiny enough. Let's go size 4. And then here we'll say, use slide tiny. There we go. So you see it says this text is tiny. Hopefully your resolution is good enough. It says this text is tiny, 1 the first section, right? And this also gets this text is tiny, right? Because section 1 uses this, and those guys use section 1. And then section 2 didn't use it, so section 2 doesn't have it. But then if I just pop this down in section 2, then we get it. Can you not pass around a struct containing all information and choose to omit things like margins for slides derived? I mean, that's what we're doing. It's just you have to make that happen if you're going to make it happen in some way. We're just deciding what's the best way to make things happen. Have a current margin in your render code that gets updated. Well, the thing is, this parsing of the file is not tied to the render. So the issue is we're stomping the value way before we ever get to render, right? But if we make text, then the text can inherit the margin from the slide. I think that's what I'm going to do. So let me set this back for now. We'll find out if this is a mistake. It's an easy fix to the current problem. When we say make text, we're going to say the slide result dot left margin equals slide dot left margin. Copy slide properties. Is this the right thing to do? Similarly for right. And well, we don't want any of this stuff anymore. Okay, so now when we draw slide text, get left, why am I still running this? We're about to edit it. So Ugh. We need to pass the actual item in now. All right, so we'll do that. We'll say item is a text item, or slide text is what it's called. And then text is item.text, just is item.justification, so we don't have to change our code that uses those. And here we're going to leave this abstracted, and we're going to say we get the margin for that particular item. Of course, I was saying this is an easy fix, and it's starting to get involved. Right, and then we have to add that. Undeclared identifier slide. All right. Hey, it looks like that worked. So let me just say, so section 1, we say the right margin is going to be 0. It's all the way over on the side, and the other text didn't move. So that's awesome. But we can, we can leave it with a bigger margin if we want. And we might as well specify the left margin here too, because why not? Any questions or comments about that? I think it's time to start doing images, but your mileage may vary. My tea's cold already. Oh wait, we got to do the auto layout as I type multiple lines. I mean, come on. We have to do that. I mentioned just use some Unicode character instead. That was kind of a joke. Would that work in the current form? Is it all passed through as is to OpenGL's text rendering? No, I do not use OpenGL's text rendering. No, 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 no. I mean, I think technically OpenGL doesn't have text rendering, but you would use like WGL draw text or something. But no, I don't do that. We have operating system independent text rendering that will come out the same way on whatever operating system that you run this program. Someone is saying use slide -1. What does that mean? You mean like the previous slide? You mean like an integer offset? If you make an image just a path to a file, then moving files breaks the presentation. Is there a way to fix this? Well, if you had seen the previous stream, you'll see that we're already referring to assets not by path name, certainly. We're referring to them as file name, right? And then, so if you change the file name, then sure, it'll break it, but that's going to happen. But you can move it around in the folder structure, and it won't break it. Why not make margins slide items? They are rendered sequentially. That might be a more robust way to do it. I could put that in the comment. Where was that comment? An alternative suggested by Twitch viewer is to make margin settings be a slide item so that we can process them in sequence. That would be a reasonable way to do it. And in fact, if we end up with a lot of things that have the same general property, then maybe they all go into a struct like that or whatever. How does it know where the image files are? Well, when you say where your presentation is, it'll look there. All right. Bake them into the slideshow file at the end? No, because we want to load images very quickly. If anything, we'll save them out as GPU compressed textures or something. That'll come later. I mean, for now, we're going to load them slowly, but that'll come later. But before any of that, I've got to be able to do multi-line input. So if I go to my show, if I say, hello, Sailor, I've got to be able to do multi-line input. This is going to end up on top of each other, and that's no good. So we have to fix that. Now, this is interesting because, again, the y-coordinate is a property of the slide. Or of the... Okay, wait. So the y-coordinate is going on to the text state, current text state, and then we're incrementing that. So when we do multiple lines there, we can just increment the y-coordinates by, now this is a little bit tricky. The thing is, the tricky thing is that line spacing, right? Like whatever is your standard spacing for different lines, how far apart vertically should they be from each other, is typically defined by the font. And, you know, we're not really looking up the font at this time. So we're going to have to make a way to do that. But I'm going to do this in two stages. First, I'm just going to put in a hacky version that just, you know, decrements the y-coordinate because we're in a right-handed coordinate system. You decrement to go down the screen. So we're just going to decrement the y-coordinate system by some amount that's a little bit wrong. That'll work. And then we'll put the right value in. So the little bit wrong version that we can use is just the, right, remember our font size is sort of in hundredths of the screen. So we can just say font size times 0.01, right? So when we get some slide text, which happens down here, we say current text state y coordinate minus equals current text state, or let's make a variable called delta y, right? Because we're going to want to change that to be more accurate. For now, we're going to say delta y, we'll do that, is minus current text state dot font size times o dot o1. I think that'll just do it. There you go. So, and I can just start I can just keep going from here. My name is the guy who keeps typing. And if we run off the bottom of the screen, we're not auto-adjusting or anything. But that's fine, because I don't, like I said, I don't really want auto-adjustment because I don't like the way that works. And I'm not sure I have a better idea yet. So I'd rather just manually adjust. So I can say, 0.8 or 0.7, 6.5, there we go. The guy who keeps typing. Let's get a better color. All right. I don't like the. Let's put point. That's better. It's a little bright, but whatever. Okay, so this is not correctly spaced yet. And I guess I'm just going to say, I'm just going to make some routine that says get spacing, and that'll just be expensive, and whatever, it'll be an expensive donkey routine. Doesn't that also offset the very first line? No, because when we call make text, that puts the y coordinate in, right? I think. So yeah, we say, the contents of result equals state, which copies the y coordinate, right? So that happens here, and then we move y. So it's fine. Don't you have to check whether the file has specified a y coordinate since the last text? No, because the first one doesn't offset. Can you do blank lines? Right now, you can't do blank lines. But I'm not necessarily sure that's a problem. I mean, again, unless you wanted to insert a Unicode space or something, or maybe even a tab. I don't know. Would a tab work? So if I put a blank line here, I think it's going to ignore it. Yeah. Tab. Let's put a period. Oh, here's how you do a blank line. Text color 0000 blank line. So that's stupid, but you could certainly do that. I'm not sure I recommend it. What is the difference between slides and styles? Don't they achieve the same thing? No, because the style is only font properties. Which can get changed or take effect for each text item. They're different because of when the things are applied, and also they're different just in terms of the human idea of what they are. Like, I don't want to get too baked into the computer idea of what they are and make things that way. No, but like, I think of a text style as being something different than a slide template. And so I don't see the need to try to shoehorn them into being the same thing. Like, if they naturally were the same thing, then maybe that's fine, but I don't think that's how it's going to go. Will I support images? Yes. I've been saying images over and over. I guess you're new on the stream. All right. In fact, images is approximately the next thing. Oh no, we have to finish this feature by putting the correct displacements on the dealy boppers. So we're going to say delta y get line spacing, current text state, and well, I might as well pass the slideshow and the slide anyway, because those might affect it later, but they're probably not going to affect it now. So, oh, we need the slideshow probably to look at the font size. Okay, so we want to say asset name, comma. Well, so I want to have as much code be in common here as it is when I pick the font size to draw it, because I don't want small inconsistencies to creep in and introduce bugs. So we have this get font at size here, right? Where we say, oh, the font name, right? And then we did all this. So what I'm really going to do is I'm just going to say font is get font from the slideshow, the slide, and the text item, right? And that's going to give me a particular font at a particular size. And that simplifies this code as well. So I'm going to say that same thing here. I'm going to say item, font equals get font, blah, blah, blah. And I think that'll just tell me default line spacing. But that's in, so spacing, and then we want to return spacing divided by back buffer height, right? Because we're doing, yeah. And that's a float, and we return a float here. And then we have get font. Item.font name. We'll get rid of these globals. This is in get font. Error. Oh, current slide index is no good. We'll just make it a more cryptic error message for now. If we want to, we could always put more information on the slide. Like we don't put even the slide's name on the slide. Not all slides have names, but we could put it there. We could put the number of the slide on the slide and use it here, but I'm not going to worry about this yet. So, and then we're just going to say font and return font. Oh, what's the integer size? We got to get that. Okay. Undeclared identifier show. Undeclared identifier text item. That's just item. And then 349. It's called result for some reason. And slide is current slide, current text state. I guess I'm passing a pointer, I don't know why. All right, what was I even doing? Oh, I was doing line spacing. And look, it looks better because it just does. I could add a multiplier on line spacing. While we're doing this. Let's do that. And we'll put it on current text state. I guess that's the right place to put it. I don't know, man. Or should it be a, no, it shouldn't be a slide property because we might change it in the middle of the slide. Yeah, it's a little bit of a hack to have these things on. Like, to have the margins and, well, we'll see how it shakes out. But it's a little bit of a hack. So I'm going to have line spacing factor is 1.0. And then I'm going to say, I'm just going to call it line factor, keep it short. Current text state dot line spacing factor equals F, right? And then we say delta y times equals current text state dot line spacing factor. Okay, so that still works, but we can start doing things like there's my hello sailor. I maybe want to start making these more visible. All right, we're going to say line factor 0.8. Hey, 0.9, 0.3. Oh, it's so crunched. 0.5, right? So then let's do 0.5, and then 0.8. There we go. 9. Here's the fun one. Let's do line factor -1. That's pretty good. Okay, I think the next thing to do is to do images. So I'm going to heat up some more tea. Think about any questions that you have about what's going on for when I get back, and then we'll continue on and do images. You should put your microphone on something soft so it doesn't sound like you're banging on a large pail every time you type. Yeah, I know. I just didn't do that. Sorry. Sorry. I mean, I should have like a shock cradle for it or whatever. The thing is, I keep switching microphones to find one that's reasonable. Oh, dude. That's such a good point. How can I even? I'm being stupid. So we really want, can I resize right now? I don't think I handle resize, no. Actually, that's going to be a thing. Let's do that after images because it's not as exciting, but handle window resizes. So so it's gross purple color. We'll do that. And we'll say size 15. That needs to be a little higher up, 0.6. Now if I full screen it, it's the same as a resize. It's not going to handle it correctly. Fortunately, I mostly did that work for Sokoban, so we should be able to paste it. Well, are there any questions right now? I thought of something else that I should do, and now I forgot what it is again. What was it that I thought of? It seemed important. It's the problem with making tea is you think about something and then you forget. Really, it seemed like an important thing to do before images. What was it? Well, I don't know. Oh, yes, I remember now. Instead of doing this stupid blank line hack, we're just going to have a thing called blank that makes a blank line. Because we're going to want blank lines, let's be honest, right? So right now this won't work. There's no blank line there, and it's complaining about command blank. So let's add command blank so we can legit do blank lines. So down here we're going to say add text to slideshow, slide current text state, and line. Right, I'm going to factor that. So slideshow, slide is a pointer to a slide. State is call it text state. Oh, let's call it current text state. Why not? State is a pointer to a slide text, and a line is a string. Text. Let's make sure that still works. Show undeclared identifier. It's not called result. This is called show, but that one is called result. I should rename that result, man, so it's not so confusing. And that's current slide. All right. Okay, so that's great. We still don't have blank, but the whole point of this was we can do the following really easily. We say if it's blank, we add a blank line. There we go, blank line. Okay, let me look for the questions that came in while I was doing that. When do you render font glyphs? Do you rasterize some range up front? Basically, so I rasterize glyphs on demand the first time that I see them into a texture map. And then subsequent times that we see them at that particular size, we use what's already rasterized in the texture map. So you pay a little bit the first time, and then it's fast. Is there some kind of code blocks like in Markdown? I don't know Markdown that well, so I can't tell you, but probably not, or not in the same way, because this is going to end up pretty different, I think, from most things that you're familiar with. We'll see, though. We'll see. Resize full screen. Well, yeah, that's a thing that we can do. Do you want to do vertical alignment, i.e. centered on current Y, above, below, etc.? I don't think so. I don't have the real need to do that. Later on when we do variables, and then maybe expressions on variables, that will like help you do that kind of thing if you want, I think. But usually when I want to place something vertically, I just want to put it there. Like you don't generally want to center text vertically, because the place that you want to draw text vertically depends a little bit on the font, and it'll be weighted a little bit wrongly if you just like put it in the middle of the screen. So yeah. Hash table question mark. I don't know what you mean. We already have hash tables and we're using them. How do you expand the texture map of the glyphs? Well, you just keep track of how much of the texture you're using, and if you run out of space, then I make another texture, and then you take draw call pane, right, every time you swap textures. But really, the plan is that you allocate a big enough texture that that doesn't happen realistically, which these days is a very very viable strategy. It's not like we're pressed for texture space in the same way as we used to be. Add a value after blank line to give the height of the blank line. Huh. But I mean, you can do that already. You could say line scale 3 blank line scale 1 or whatever, which is a little dirtier, but I feel like I'm not necessarily going to do that too often. Like if I want to position things far from each other, I'm just going to specify the new Y coordinate probably. I don't know. We'll see how it works out. If I find that that will be a useful thing, then we will do it. Am I using a hash table to store rendered textures? No, because there's a very small number of rendered textures. It's like there should be one. Right? So, no, they're not in a hash table. Okay, let's start talking about images. First, I guess I need an image to do. And well, I'm looking for a, hold on. Oh, do I not? Okay. This is not the most graphical image, but you know, I keep seeing this world is 100 people image, and that's pretty good. It's something you might have on a slide, and it's not 16 by 9. So that'll also give us the chance to implement scaling and stuff. So let's do that. So first, I'm going to go to my show, delete that folder, data, shows. I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to say world as 100 people, not people. So I'm just going to have that file in there for now. Later we could talk about, whether we want to compress the images and pack them into like an atlas that travels with your show in one file. It's a reasonable thing to do, but for now, I think we just have them be loose assets, and I think at the top of the document, because you might want to use a particular image several times, so I'm gonna make a thing where we say load image. It's going to be a little bit different from the font because the fonts are not catalog assets, so we specify the extension, which is a little bit goofy. We should probably fix that. But I'm going to say load image, world 100 is world as 100 people, and I'm not even going to specify the file extension because it's going to be, we're going to give you the freedom to change it and recompress it and save it as different formats without breaking your slideshow. And we already have the machinery to do that. I don't know if I'm going to generate an executable of the slideshow. That is not clear. I'm not sure I see the point in that. I do see the point in writing ancillary code that goes into like libraries or something that you can call out from the slideshow to do cool visualization stuff. But I don't know about generating an exe from the show itself. Maybe, I don't know. Oh, but how to look up if you've used a glyph before. That probably is a hash table, like mapping the glyph index to where in the texture is it. Yes, that would be a hash table, probably. Yeah, I mean, some of the fonts that I use right now, like Carmina, for example, is a font that I've paid for the ability to use, but that I can't redistribute, right? So when we redistribute this program, it'll come with fonts that are free. So Anonymous Pro is freely distributable. Inconsolata is a freely distributable Open Sans. Google Noto font family. So there's plenty of stuff that is freely distributable, which is good because that's how you get. So one of the problems when you use like PowerPoint on your Windows machine, and then you go to a Windows machine from a different year, or a Mac or Linux machine or something, they're going to have different fonts because some of those fonts are commercially licensed and not everyone has the rights to them, right? Whereas if you use free fonts and they're packed with the program, then you're guaranteed to always have them, which is why I'm taking this approach. Okay. So I'm going to do load image. So right now, well, we will run and it should complain that it doesn't know what load image is, which it does. All right. If I remember correctly, we did get the texture catalog, right? Texture catalog. Well, we're not initting it, but let's do that. Let's make sure that works. I didn't load it. All right. Let's get that out of Sokoban. right? Okay, so we run. That's fine. So, you know, the texture catalog is a standard thing that I use, where you take a nice short name and it'll look up the asset name and load it on disk, and hot loading, it'll get hot loaded if you edit it and all that stuff. So, we are gonna, do I have Photoshop installed? Is that, I don't have Photoshop. Let me start downloading Photoshop. Do I not even have so-called Creative Cloud running? Probably because I got tired of it popping up windows. Anyway, we're going to start that process. But we're going to go here and we're going to say, okay, when we go load image, we'll sort of put that up here. Define, where was define style? Wait, what was it called? Declare font. Load image is kind of like declare font a little bit, so we'll put them near each other. Load image. We do the same thing. For the image. Okay, print. Load image. So we're just making sure that we work there. All right, cool. So we have this routine find that'll take a catalog of any type and a short name, and it'll load the asset and stuff. So I can say map for texture map is find in texture catalog asset name, right? So if we didn't find it, we're going to say handler attempt to load image file whatever unable to load image file whatever, right? Asset name. Otherwise, we want to make a map, because again, we want to have a layer of indirection between what we call the image and what the file name is, right? So then we'll say, well, let's make sure we're not redefining the thing as always, right? So we'll say dummy found is table find in texture name table, short name. If found, we say attempt to redefine image whatever, short name. Right, otherwise we go table add and Creative Cloud just binged my cursor out of the window while I was typing. That's why I don't leave it running. I don't care about Adobe stock. Don't care about any of this. Why is Photoshop not installed? All right. Table add. Let's just say, let's make a name for this. Table add, table copy string short name, copy string asset name. Right? It did it again. What Creative Cloud, what are you doing to my computer? How do companies like this not only continue, look at what it's doing to the cursor, how do they not only exist, but just continue to make tons of money? I mean, I guess I'm helping to give them the money right now, so why do I even, it's so bad. So bad. All right, well, I'm going to try to keep typing in as much as I can, and we'll see what happens. Okay, what am I even doing? Okay, I have to declare this table. I have to declare a table called texture name table. And that's kind of like that table, so yeah. Well, let's see what happens with that. Catalog textures was not able to find asset world is 100 people. Interesting. Let's look at what the texture catalog. I may not have it looking at JPEG. No. Does STB image do JPEG? We're using STB image to actually load the images right now. Let's see what he handles. He probably does. What if I just put JPEG here and see what happens? It crashes. Well, let's see why it crashes. Maybe STB image asserts that it doesn't know that kind, or maybe I didn't compile it in. I might have not compiled it in. Call stack in OpenGL? The GL driver is dead? Update texture. I don't know. What does map look like? Well, it's definitely loaded a bitmap. It's got a width and a height. The data format is it might be that it's a 3-channel image and I don't usually do that. But I don't know why the GL driver is frickin' crashing on me. That is not cool, man. It is not cool, man. Like GL Tech Image 2D should just not crash your program. I don't. Oh, unless I'm okay. Unless I'm pointing it at, if I'm lying about how much data there is, and I'm pointing it at something that doesn't have enough. That could be. Where did I define my texture formats? Why does this search program take so long to start up? And why does it take so long to search? Dude, I can compile all these files in less time than it takes to search them. Oh, well, it's actually searching more than I wanted is what's happening. It's still, I can compile these files much faster than this takes to search them. It's ridiculous. Okay. Font. No, where's my texture formats? Oh, they're there. So yeah, it's format RGB888, which is correct. Except, I mean, maybe it just doesn't like mapping from RGB to a 4-channel thing. I don't know. I'm really not in the mood to deal with OpenGL being bananas right now. Although then again, this data looks kind of uninitialized to me. Let's save this as a PNG because we know that we handle those okay. Because that's what I load all the time. So let me see. Photoshop's actually done. At least their download speed is reasonable. Their startup speed is not reasonable, but all right. So we're going to save this as PNG, and I'm going to delete the. Well, I'll rename the JPEG to like old. And we'll debug JPEG loading later if we want to do that. Hopefully, so if the PNG loading doesn't work, then who even knows what's happening? All right. Now it crashed again. Maybe it doesn't like how big it is. Maybe it doesn't like that it's non-power of 2. Well, let's try some things. If we make it a much smaller size, no, not inches, pixels, why does Photoshop think I care about inches? Okay, so it's now a square distorted thing, and I'm saving it. And it's horrible now compared to what it used to be. Okay, that loaded. That loaded. So what if it's, I thought you could load non-power of 2 files into OpenGL lately. Is that not true? Let's try 400 by 256. Save that. Okay, is it just I'm loading something big and it's dying? All right, well, here we go. I'm just going to do this again. I'm going to say, well, let's image size this by, you know, by about half. Whoops. By about half, proportionally scaled. We'll save that as PNG just to whatever. I don't know why this was a JPEG. Whoever compressed this for the web, making it JPEG instead of PNG, is a goofball. Okay, wait, unable to load, world is 100 people. Oh, because it's called old. All right, so the PNG, okay, it's loading it. I'd rather have a higher res image, but we're going to debug that later. Debug why image does not load when it's high res. But supposedly we have an image now. So I can make a command. How do we want to specify where images go? I guess by default. So by default, we want to scale things normally. And we're using vertical scale numbers. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the following. I'm going to say if you say image we check that we have a slide. And then we'll say image name and remainder is break by spaces. Asset name found is find result dot texture name table, comma, image name. If not found, attempt to use undefined image, whatever image name. All right. Then I want the scale as, again, a percentage. No, we want coordinates. We'll go for now. We're going to want other formatting options, but to be simple to begin with, we're going to want coordinates and scale. So let's just do that. Float. F is a float, success is a bool, remainder is a string, equals string to float, remainder. We already have a remainder as a string. If no success, error handler unable to parse x coordinate of image placement. Continue, right? Same. X is f, y is f, and then scale is f. Okay, so unable to parse y coordinate of image placement, unable to parse scale of image placement. If remainder, error handler, junk at end of line, whatever. All right. So now we go to up here. Remember we had our slide image. And this is not, we're not going to store the path, we're going to store the name. And the position is a vector 2, and scale is a float, right? And so we're going to say image is new, slide image, image.type is slide image, image.image name is copy string, image name. Image dot position dot x equals x. Image dot position dot y equals y. Image dot scale equals scale. And we add that to the current slide. Now we won't be able to see it yet. Type restriction does, oh, because it's called table find and not find. What line is that? 304. I don't know why I didn't just call it find, but all right. So that's all fine. Now we need to be able to draw images. Let's go here. Font size is 0 to 100, while coordinates are 0 to 1. Isn't it a bit awkward? It's a good point. We could make all the coordinates. We haven't declared what the units are at all yet, so we can make the coordinates up to 100. I think that's a good point. Typo, EMG, oh, image. How did I miss that? I don't think you continue after the errors in the image load case. Why not? After this, we definitely want to continue, because you want to show you want to keep loading the rest of the slideshow. Why would you want to bail on the rest of your slideshow just because someone typoed the name of an image or something, right? I think you do continue there, unless I misunderstand the objection. Let me see what else has been going on in chat. Yeah, I mean, we might have versions where we specify 2 corners. We might have versions where we just say aspect fill it to fill as much of the screen as you can, right? And I think I'm going to add those soon, maybe even today. But first we have to get images on the screen at all, right? Okay. And we're going to want to specify other properties like, a scale color or an alpha, like if we want it to blend into the background. Like often I want to like layer an image kind of. I don't know. We'll see. So if we're drawing, where was our thing? Okay, if it's a slide image, this is not incomplete anymore, and now neither is this. Draw slide image. So item is a slide image, and we're just going to verify that we get here, right? Because that's already a victory if we even get there. I thought I compiled the wrong program for a second. Okay, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that. That's not good. Where were we using it? Are we using it? No, we're not. We're not using it. Let's use it on the Hello Sailor slide. We'll put it behind the text. We'll say image. What is it called? World 100. In the middle of the screen. In the middle of the screen. And well, let's make it the height of the screen. So 50, 50, 100. Hey, look, we're printing slide image, so we're ready to draw it. We're trying to draw it, but our draw is only a print statement. Okay, where is that? So here's what we do. We say immediate begin, immediate flush. But before we do that, we say we got to re-look up the texture name. This is, whatever. We're just jamming. We're not trying to make the most efficient thing. Texture name table. So we're going to do this. Asset name found is find show texture name table item dot image name. If not found, log print draw slide image error. Somehow we are not able to look up image, but this should have been caught at loading time, I guess. Item.image name return map is let's call this internal error. Like internal compiler error, it's something that really shouldn't happen. Find, where was my texture catalog? Yeah. Map is find in texture catalog asset name. if we didn't get a map, again, we complain. Emacs, I didn't want that. Able to look up asset name in the texture catalog, but this should have been caught at loading time. Asset name. All right. Immediate begin. Let's say center is v2. Where's my definition of v4? I want to put my v2 next to it. Because it's my quick constructor for vector. Yeah, I thought I just looked there. Am I in the wrong file? Did I not do that? v4 make vector 4, v3 make vector 3, v2 make vector 2. I swear I already defined. Oh, this search program doesn't search the slideshow text, first of all, so that's great. All right. Center is going to be vector 2 of back buffer width times item position dot x times o dot o1, back buffer height times item dot position dot y times o dot o1. And this is robustness. Really, we want to define a fixed aspect ratio for the presentation rather than having it be whatever people resize the window to audit for all uses of back buffer star, right? Because right now we're just using this to look up coordinates in the window, which we're not really going to want. So I'm going to put that down there, right? So we're getting that position. So these are in 0 to 100, and we times 0.01, and then blah, 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 right? And then scale is going to be back buffer height times o dot o1 times item dot scale. Right? Now, set shader. Do I have a shader ARGB and texture? Let's see if that compiles. Undeclared identifier v2. Okay, I knew I had a v4 somewhere. It's in slides. Why is it in slides? Get rid of that. Okay, I capitalized a B where I shouldn't. All right. So this still isn't going to draw anything, but we're getting close. We're getting close. Now, I just want to draw a quad. So UV0 is going to be V2. These are the coordinates of the texture. Let me say U0, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. If we decide to do cropping of the texture, we can alter these. Then we're going to do immediate quad, P0, P1, P2, P3, U0, U1, U2, U3, eye color. Eye color is going to be that for now. And then let's make the position. So I hope we're drawing at the right scale. I might have to change the transform, we'll see. So P0 is center minus V2 scale times 0.5 scale. Let's call W is Oh, wait. So let's call h is scale times 0.5 times 1 divided by cast or denom, right? And then width is the same. Width is scale times 0.5 times no, we don't scale here. And here we put I'm trying to, you know, compensate for the aspect ratio of the thing. So this is going to be map.width divided by denom, and denom is cast float map.height, and if that's 0, so we're just avoiding dividing by 0 here is what's happening. Reset the shader. Let me do it this way. P0, P, oh, I just deleted my, okay, hold on. I didn't mean to do that. I needed those. I want this there. P1, P2, P3 is plus W minus H, plus W plus H minus W plus H. Well, maybe that'll do something. Oh, we didn't set the texture. All right, so I got the coordinates wrong in some way. Okay, so first of all, my UVs are upside down for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe that's just, all right, so P0 is center, minus W minus H, plus W minus H, plus W plus H. This looks right to me, so why is my immediate quad messed up for that one case? Like, it just looks like it is. It's, I would have thought that would have been well tested by the Sokoban code, but maybe that particular one never. Zero, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. I mean, that's. Zero, 1, 2, 0, 2, 3. What am I getting wrong, people? What am I getting wrong? 0, 1, 2. I guess the UVs are just wrong. 0. So this in the lower left corner should P0, and the lower right corner should be P1. Yeah, it's border bouncing me. It's going to the left. Okay, this is weird. Wait, what? Oh, I'm so bad at this. I can't believe it. Okay, so this might be upside down, but we'll see. Yeah, it's upside down. Okay. So that's not the worst thing ever. Now, for my next trick, because we've got all this infrastructure that we're building on, we now should have something substantially more powerful than PowerPoint already, which is the following. I now should have the ability to live edit my slides while I'm viewing the slideshow, right? So if I start coloring in here and I, whoops, which one is the small one? I want to make sure. Okay, we have to just save this under the right file name, not the old one, but that, yes. Oh, come on, Photoshop, you're such a bad person. Save as, yes. All right, so hopefully I can just hit control. There we go, see, look, it updated my thing. It updated my thing. It updated my thing, right? I can lasso and move and transform, apply, and I can see it in my slideshow, right? And then I can decide that I've made a horrible mistake, and I can undo all this stuff and save it again, and it's all good. And that is good action, if I may say so. So take that, PowerPoint. I think it's time to check that in. Now, whoops, I ran the wrong program. We're writing so many programs, we don't even know which ones to run now. So I have the feeling that what makes sense to do now I think we're going to want to add more things to images, like different ways of positioning and scaling it, right? And I'm not sure the best way to do that. One way to do it is to just have a run-on line with image commands. You know, I think we're going to do that. I think we're going to do that. So the first thing I kind of want here is I want to be able to like blend this image into the background because I'm using it as a background of a slide. So I want to provide like a color, you know, and then shortly after we do that, well, let's make sure that the existing options work first of all before we get all. So image, here's my image. So we can change it to 75% instead of 100. We can change it to 50, 10. We can put it in the lower left corner. We can do the following. Let's comment that one out. Let's put it in the template, right? So we could say image world 100, 5, I don't know where to put it, 90, 10. So it's up in the corner. So now that's in all the section 1s, and then it goes away for the section 2s. See, you can just remind people of what we're talking about in a very visual way. Embedded Excel diagrams, when we're going to do way better than embedded Excel diagrams, man. Okay. So let's make image specification stronger. So I'm just going to sort of say that the image line is a run-on line. So you could say stuff like image world 100, and then whatever's after that is a bunch of commands. So we could say pause whatever, scale whatever, color, you know, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, right? So that way, if I don't want to say the scale, then we get a default scale. I could maybe add other ways of scaling, like scale to height, right, or scale to width. So we won't do that yet. But yeah, we're just going to do this. And then, yeah, I definitely just got an error message. Probably, well, no, we weren't running. But yeah, now definitely we would, because I've messed up that line, right? Because I've added all this stuff to it that it doesn't understand, right? It's trying to get a coordinate here, and I gave it the string pause, and that's not a number, and it's upset, right? Okay. Let us do this. I don't think this will be particularly hard. Famous last words. So we want to handle these three things: pause, scale, color. And we're basically going to go into a mini version of what we're already doing. Like here, we're already sort of switching on what the thing is and blah, blah, blah. We just want to go into a loop just like that for images. So we're going to do what we did, checking for the image name. That's going to stay exactly as we already did it. Now we're going to make the new image. And then we're going to say parse image properties result, which is our slideshow, the slide, and the image, and remainder, which is the rest of whatever that command string is. And I'm going to say success, because I want to return the option that maybe we failed for some reason. Although I don't think so. I mean, I think we want an image to go on the screen no matter what, so it's fine. So we parse the image properties, and then we add it to the things. So parse image properties image is a slide image, and remainder is a string, or let's just call it line, right? So command, we'll do the same thing. Right, if no command, oh, let's pass the handler, right, because that's how we're reporting errors. Okay, we're passing that by value, so we'll do that here too. Parse image properties handler. Okay, if not command, error handler. Oh, actually, no, I think we want to do the following. remainder is equal to line, while remainder, we do the following. Command RHS is break by spaces remainder. Let's call it remainder line, because I often use remainder for like a smaller thing and I don't want to overload it accidentally. If no command, just break because we're done, because we're going to keep looping till we're done, right? If command is equal to whatever, case pause, case scale, case color, case anything else, error handler, unknown image property, whatever, and command return. Emacs, why do you taunt me, Emacs? All right. So if it's pause, then we do this. Image position.x equals f. Image.position.y equals f. Okay. Scale. Well, okay, this is RHS now. Oh, you know what? I'm divided about whether to have a lot of hygiene around this variable or not. I think I will. Remainder line is whatever was left. Eat spaces on that. We learned that lesson before. And we'll do the same thing down here. Actually, we'll do it there, so we don't have to worry about it. Okay, for scale, we get string to float of RHS. If there's no success, unable to parse, scale of image placement and return. If it's a color, we already have a thing for colors. We say color success remainder is read vector for alpha optional handler and RHS. If not success, return. And then we don't have a color yet, but image dot scale color equal color. And remainder line equal remainder. Okay, I can't forget that part of it. The spaces part is fine, but okay, so something like that, and then we need to put the color on the image. Scale color is a vector 4. That just means it's a color that I'm multiplying by. We might also have blend it toward a constant color if we want, or something like that. Like add a blend color and a blend factor. which wouldn't be unreasonable. We can do that in a minute. See what I forgot. Undeclared identifier slide. Because that's current slide. Wow. Okay. Unknown image property 5. Okay, so I goofed up somewhere. Did I get the... Huh. Wait, in line 32. Oh. Oh, right, because... Right. We haven't converted this one. Pause, whatever, scale, whatever. Okay. So this is fine. The problem is just our images are not showing up for some reason. Why is that? Image name remainder. Oh, because we didn't set scale. If we don't set scale, it's going to be 0, which is goofy. Let's set that to a default to like 100 or 50. Let's make it 50. Yeah. So you'll at least see something. So if we forget to set the scale, we'll at least see something on the screen. If we as the user, the code of course should not forget to set the scale. All right, so there we go. We have a very tiny scale there, so let's do that. The color, oh, we're not using the color yet. So scale 100. Pause 50/50. Okay, so we're back to that. Oh wait, that's not the one I wanted to change. It was this one. Pause 50/50, scale 100, color whatever. So, let's call that scale color, because again, like I said, we may want to blend color. So scale color, and now when we draw it, it's in draw equals RGB color wait, not iColor, image.scale color. So ARGB color just changes it from a float vector to a U32. What is it called if it's not called image? Item.scale color. Okay, now we need to set the default color to white, and so I'm going to say image.scale color is v41111. We would set this in the struct, but we don't have good struct literals yet. Compiler incomplete. All right. Hey, look at that. The one in the corner is fine, and this one's faded into the background, and we can go there, and we can make it, or 0.03, we can put it, oh, that's really faint, 0.09, oh, you can start to see it, 0.15, let's make it blue, you know, whatever, that's all good. That's all good. How do we feel about that? When do you decide to go over code that already works to improve it? For instance, you just got something new working. Will you improve the code later or keep it because it works? I almost always improve stuff later, but you want to wait until you know what's really better. Like I could clean up the stuff that I just did a little bit, but it's not going to be a substantial change, right? A substantial change happens when you know some clear structural difference that should happen, which right now I don't. And when might I know? Well, if it comes to, you know, rendering this stuff faster, or you know, just organizing the data in a certain way so that it can be packaged easier, or you know, stuff like that. Real world constraints may introduce, or maybe just once the graphical editor starts coming in, it's like, oh, it's actually better to organize these things a different way, and then that makes the old code more awkward. Then I would rewrite it. But what's here right now is fine. Like, it's not messy. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty understandable. And I don't really have a problem with it. The only thing that's a little weird is, you know, exactly what's a slide property versus a text property, and so forth, but that's not particularly bad. Someone suggesting image cropping. Yeah, we could do that. We could do that for sure. I guess I would do cropping with like 0 to 100, meaning the full width of the image. So then you could, you know, you want to be able to scale it and have the cropping stay the same. Is keeping code not messy just something you learn after writing lots of code? Well, it's something you may learn after writing lots of code if you have a self-critical eye on your own work. I definitely know people who never learn that. So, or they don't learn it particularly well, let's say. Like really the way that you get good is by criticizing your own work. That's, I mean, what separates the good programmers from the average programmers is the good programmers measure their own work and want it to be better than it is, usually. What snacks do I have? I have sea salt and vinegar chips. All right, let's do cropping, and then I think that'll be it for the stream. Let me get some water, and I'll do cropping. Layering would be nice, foreground, background, behind text, blah, blah, blah. We already have that. We already have layering. It's done. What's the difference between putting slide specs in a show file compared to putting building options in a separate text file? I mean, I don't know how to explain that. Like, the whole reason for this file is that it's not a program exactly, or it's not the same kind of program. If you don't have a feel for that, I'm not sure what else I could say. I mean, because it's not a program, I can sort of edit it with more abandon and not worry about things. I suppose I could just make it a program at some point. That actually wouldn't be the worst thing. I'm not that avant-garde yet. It certainly would be powerful. Like, the thing is, you want all the hot loading ability and all that good stuff. But you could do that while it's a program, I guess. Okay. We're going to say, I'll put more spaces before each of these so that they pick out a little better. Let's make sure that still works. Okay. Now, we're going to want to make this work. Crop. So it's going to be left, right, bottom, top. So we're going to say 0.1, 0.100 initially. And now it's complaining unknown image property crop, which is as expected. Oh, not 0.1, 10. I don't know. I mean, you know, I told myself that it would be easier to think about 0 to 100, but I certainly keep wanting to say 0.1, so maybe I'll change that back. Maybe it should just be 0.1 and 0.5 and 1. Like, yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to like this. All right, so, but that doesn't matter. It's orthogonal to the following thing. So crop I'm going to do something really goofy here. I'm going to do the following. For 0 to 3, f sub it success remainder equals string to float remainder. If not success, return. Right? Okay. And then I'm just going to say image dot crop left equals f sub 0. Right, and so forth. 0, 1, 2, 3. Left, right, bottom. I always regret when I use this kind of name. I always feel like I should say X something and Y something, but whatever. Okay, let's see if we at least parse that. Oh, we haven't made these. So image, crop, left, right, bottom, top. Okay, well, we parsed it. Of course, crop is at the end, so if we mess something up, whatever. All right. All right. If I really wanted to be goofy, I could get rid of this local array and like union this with an array of 4 floats, but that's starting to be messy in a bad way. Okay. When we go to draw, let's have a Boolean image.cropping set, right? Just so that if nobody ever declares a crop, we don't run this code that might mess with the coordinates slightly. Okay. So if image.cropping set, then we do the following. I'm going to say O0, O1 for the original. Well, let's call original positions, and original U0 is U0, and so forth. 1, 2, 3. This is just, I'm not trying to make this fast at all. We're going to try and change this to a comma declaration in a minute. It's just, I vaguely remember that not working, and I'm not sure if I fixed it. So we may be able to make this into 2 lines, and it'll be much nicer. But let's make the code work first. So we declare these originals, and then I'm going to say P0 is lerp, OP0, OP1, item, it's called item. Item.crop left times crop scale, and crop scale is O.01, right? P1 is lerp OP1, OP0, item.crop right times crop scale P2, P3. P3 is, so these go counterclockwise. So P3 is the upper left corner. That goes from the original P3 to original P2 by the crop left. You know, I should do this because those are going the same direction. And then P1 and P2 are going the same direction. And then we have to do the same thing with the UV coordinates, otherwise our image will be stretched. So whoops. No, yes, no, yes, no. I got unlucky that the letters OP appear in crop. U0, U1. And these should not be colon equals, any of them, because we're reassigning these guys. All right, that's something. Image, it's called item. Why do I keep doing that? Item. All right. Let's find out if I did a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, it looks kind of cropped, right? So let's crop 0, 10, 50, 0. I mean, that looks like halfway, right? 50, 0, yeah. 50% should be like right around the middle of this line. Yeah, approximately. I'm not claiming that the image is totally centered. Let's try Y cropping, 10%. Uh-oh. Why does my Y cropping not work? I was going to get all happy about it working the first time. Oh, because we didn't do crop vertical. We just did crop left and right. So the reason I'm doing this as vector 2's, this is ugly. So the reason I'm doing this as vector 2's is because this will work before or after I rotate it. You know, I mean, maybe I rotate and then crop, or maybe I crop and then rotate. I don't know. Let's try the following. You're supposed to be able to do this, but like I said, I'm not sure if I broke it or not. I mean, it looks like it's working. All right, cool. So that'll make this brief. All right. Now, this is ridiculous because vertically, we're going to now pretend that our new values are the old values. And like I said, this is, you know, I mean, maybe it would be better to crop before we rotate, and then we could just adjust the x coordinates or the y coordinates directly, but I'm doing this in versatile fashion here. So now P0 goes toward P3, item crop bottom, and P1 goes from OP1 to OP2, right? P2 is lerp OP2 to OP1, item.crop top, it's a crop top. P3 goes from P3 to P0. And again, this might get confusing, but like every single time I do quad stuff in rendering, I always do it in the same order, where it's 0, 1, 2, 3, where 0 is the lower left, 1 is the lower right, 2 is the upper right, and 3 is the upper left. So it's really easy for me to think about this stuff. I still make mistakes sometimes, but you know, not always. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 0, and left is bottom, and right is top. I got an extra space in there. Maybe that'll work. I don't know. I'm just winging it. It looks like it did something. So let's go back to, okay, 0, 0. So that's working fine. So bottom 10%, 20, 50, 99, 80, right, 10, 50, 25, so forth. I think that's working. All right. If you crop left 55 and right 55, then you're going to get a flipped image, right? So let's do that. 55, 55. You're going to get like a 10% image in the middle that is flipped. Oh no, maybe not. Oh, because maybe I backface cull it? Maybe. Well, all right. Well, the answer for right now is, in practice, the image disappears. In reality, I don't know. But I was going to quit the stream after that, but I was inspired to do one more frickin' thing. You got to do it. Rotation 30 degrees, right? All right, so if item.rotation, we do the following. Theta is item.rotation divided by, or times, tau over 360. As a float. Do I have a rotate routine already for 2D? I'm pretty sure I have one somewhere. Bananas, mixer. Simulate. God, I've got so much rotate. where is it declared? This program is so slow. Okay, well, let's just see. I have a vector 2 by theta. Yes, all right, so we just say the following. Well, center is lerp p0, well, let's not even use lerp. P0 plus P2 times 0.5, so that's the center of the image, right? P0 minus equals center, 1. So we're transforming into local coordinates. P0 is rotate P0 theta plus center. I mean, I could put the minus center in here. Maybe I'll do that. We got to put the rotation on the image, and then we got to actually parse it. Rotation 0 in degrees and rotation parse rotation of image. Return image dot rotation. All right. Oh, I have a rotate in place. That's all right. We'll make a non-in-place rotate as well. I don't really know if it's a good idea to crap up code with this kind of thing. So maybe I ought to have a way by which that gets auto-generated if you want it or something. I don't know. That would be an interesting metaprogramming thing to do. Okay. All right. Hey, look, it's rotated. Isn't it great when things work the first time? So I didn't even get any degrees to radians wrong or anything. So I can say rotation 10, 20, 88, 359, 180 to put it upside down, 130, right? So it's all good, is what I'm saying. We already did test crop left plus crop right is greater than 100. We did that. The image disappeared. And then, of course, we can crop, you know, we can change cropping while it's flipped and so forth. Oh, that's interesting. Ooh. Changing the cropping right now changes the center of rotation, which I do not like that, because I want to change the cropping. Of course, I don't actually know. Like, maybe you need to declare which center of rotation you want, because maybe you want to rotate a cropped thing, or maybe you want to leave it rotated and crop while you're leaving it rotated. I don't actually know which one's better. Come to think of it, I don't know. Who's going to rotate an image anyway? That's stupid. But you can do it. So it's not totally stupid. That seems like enough of a stream for me right now. I might do the image debugging off stream if it's boring, because it doesn't have much to do with what we're actually doing, or I might do it on stream. Who knows? Does negative rotation work? I'm sure it does. But why wouldn't it work? Maybe if I fail to parse it, but no, minus 30, minus 35, minus 44. A couple weeks back, Flying Salon and tried to help your indentation work better. No, see, the thing is, I don't want to put anything in my Emacs that messes up my C++ mode, which that would do. Have I finished exceptional C++ yet? And what's the I mean, I read as much of it as I could, and then I couldn't take it anymore. So yeah, I mean, I was just doing it to keep it real and try and have a little bit of context for what other people are reading. I don't understand how anyone can read exceptional C++ and still decide that using exceptions is a good idea. I mean, but plenty of people do. I don't understand why. It's crazy. People are bad at cost-benefit analyses, right? That's why. That's what's happening. Very, very bad at cost-benefit analyses. Let's crop out a specific one of these. So like, let's crop to the left a little, 8, all right, and then 80, 70, 60, 55, 58, 57.5, 0.8, all right, and then 10, no, 70, 65, 62, and 82, oh no, not 82, 10, 14, 13.5. All right, and then let's scale that 3x and 300 is too big because it's such a low res image. So what is yet to be determined is like, okay, is this, so this position in scaling is around the pre-cropped center of the image, right? Which is why it appeared to move. That's why, you know, when I change the scale, the positioning appears to move a little bit, right? And that's because it's actually centered pre-crop rather than post-crop. So I'm not really sure which is the best. If you're just moving around an already cropped image, as I am right now, maybe it makes sense to do it the other way. So like I said, maybe there's like a keyword for it, but I don't want to put a lot of work into things that are only for the text format, because eventually there'll be a graphical format probably. Yeah. All right. So thank you for coming to the stream. Next time we'll add some more functionality, like window resizing. That's going to be important. Well-defined aspect ratio audit for back buffer star C comment below, because we don't, once we do window resizing, you know, we don't want our positions of things to change if the window aspect ratio changes, right? So we want to sort of letterbox our slideshow into the window aspect ratio, or use the background color to fill it out, right? And make sure that that works. Create colored rectangles on the screen, and then it probably goes declare and use variables. That doesn't matter. Oh, wait, no, that does matter. I was thinking something else. And then I think like those things are pretty important. Like, hey, I'm doing a presentation. Overview mode is more for like when you're editing. Anyway, this is my current thought on the order in which to do things. Who knows if that'll be. Just because you think exceptions are slander upon humanity doesn't give you the right to actually slander people who support exceptions. Actually, it does in a sense. The sense is that, and I try to explain this to people. So the millennials or whoever, all the people who are in college these days, right, all have this idea that like, hey man, I'm allowed to just think whatever I want and you can't criticize me. Which is ironic because then they straight up criticize anybody who holds values of, let's say, social norms that are different from theirs or whatever. But never mind that. You know, people just have this whole thing of like, oh, you're never supposed to criticize. If people are nice and they're not conservative, you're not supposed to criticize them. And you're supposed to just have happy feelings about them. And it's like, okay, actually though, right, the idea of engineering, the reason we have computers and electricity that comes on when I flip the switch, right, and a road that I can drive on when I go home, the reason we have these things is because of engineering. And the core idea of engineering, the very, very basic idea, is that some ways of doing things are better than others, right? Some ways of doing things are more robust, result in things that last longer, things that are safer. In terms of software, things that run faster or use fewer resources and so on, right? Engineering is the art of doing things in the best way possible, right? So the core conceit of engineering is that some ways are better than others. Therefore, if you claim to be doing engineering, then you are subject to this scheme of measuring the effectiveness of the techniques you choose to use, right? And the techniques you choose to use are subject to criticism because it's engineering. That's what engineering is. If you just want to be some wacky, you know, computer artist who doesn't care about the efficacy of anything you make, that's totally fine too. You can go do that, and then nobody can criticize what you do, but that's not engineering anymore. That's like art or something, right? And I know about that because I do art also. But engineering means the art of doing things in the best way possible, right? And therefore, if somebody claims to be a software engineer and they claim to think that exceptions are a good way to build software, then I certainly do have license to criticize their claims and criticize their methods of engineering because those are bad engineering. Certainly, at least from my perspective, and I claim objectively, right? And so the pursuit of being an engineer is this ongoing discussion where we determine which ideas are really right and really wrong, and you know, we do that by testing them against reality, against both theory, you know, and then predictions and outcomes and so forth, right? So exceptions are not just a matter of your opinion, man, right? If you're claiming to be a software engineer, then exceptions, the idea of using exceptions to build software is subject to the standard criticism that anything in engineering is subject to. Absolutely. It's not just a matter of like personal style, right? Or it can be a matter of personal style, but then your personal style makes you a better engineer or a worse engineer. Clearly, that's what engineering is. And so, I'm not sure if the comments in the chat were sarcasm or not, but I've heard this attitude from enough people that I've been bothered by it, like enough people speaking seriously, right? This is not just arbitrary, right? This is not like some postmodern, you type anything into the computer and it all works. That's not how software is. There's better engineering and worse engineering, and it's objectively measured if you bother to look at the metrics. Okay, I'm going to answer this following thing because somebody is raising a common issue. They say, exceptions are good in certain contexts. For example, if you have a web server and you wrap a request handler in database transactions, and you only interact with the database in that request, you can simply throw if anything goes wrong, roll back, and return the error code without needing to handle errors explicitly. No. Okay, so first of all, I hear that all the time. Oh, you can simply roll back and throw and roll back and blah, blah, blah. Okay, first of all, if you do not test your code that uses exceptions thoroughly for every possible exception that it can throw. So if you don't have a framework that throws random things all the time and tests to make sure your software works, then it definitely doesn't work. So you're just getting the illusion of error handling, right? You're not getting actual error handling, first of all. So almost nobody who uses exceptions in this way has actually correct code. And even if your code passes that test, you still don't know if it's correct. You just think maybe it's correct, right? Secondly, even if you end up with correct code, one of my biggest objections to exceptions is they give you an extra concern that you have to reason about everywhere in your code, right? Now exception safety is a thing. Code is hard enough to write, even when it's just regular linear code. Now you have to think about who can throw what, when, and what do we do when that happens. And if you don't understand how much more complex that is and how much harder it makes to build software and how much lower your confidence in the software's correctness can be, then go read exceptional C++ and come back to me and then we'll have a conversation, all right? Because the stuff they talk about in that book is bananas, and all they're doing is very, very basic, simple things, like building a stack that onto which you can push an arbitrary templated data structure. Like there are several chapters in that book about how hard that is to do correctly, right? So if you're taking on this burden voluntarily, you are making a very big mistake because almost nothing is worth that. Like you're getting the benefit of not handling errors explicitly. Are you kidding me? Handling errors explicitly is good. Not only because it makes your code much simpler, because it's self-documenting. Also, it's higher performance, right? If you read exceptional C++ and you look at what they're doing to make their data structures exception safe, it often has severe performance implications because you have to do things such that you can perform an atomic transaction that is guaranteed not to throw in order to move from an old state to a new state, right? So you can't just mutate things. You have to like store up a new value and an old value and then swap them really sly at the last minute. And well, that's the most common way of doing things. If you're going to get more complicated than that, then it gets even crazier. But that's slow because you're probably allocating a lot more memory for temporary storage of things and whatever, right? So don't be telling me that exceptions are good unless you've solved all these problems, which I've never seen anyone even hardly admit that they exist. But they exist and they're huge, right? So I mean, I've said this before, but that is what I have to say about all that. Yeah, so someone says, to be fair, exceptional C++ was added way before, well, I think he meant the book was written way before, or exceptions were added to C++ way before move semantics were added, which makes things a lot easier since move constructors tend to be no except. Well, they tend to, but are they guaranteed to be no except, right? You have to, in that case, at least audit your code, right? And then now, so say you make a data structure that takes a random thing, now you are claiming that the move constructor has to be no except. Like the move constructor being no except is now an additional requirement on the correctness of your data structure. And like, you might document that, but nobody's gonna read that or think about it, right? And I'm not following C++ recently to even know if there's a way to type check that is not horrible, painful, and ridiculous, but yeah, I mean, you're just making an error-prone situation. It drives me nuts that people think this is okay. Someone says, Quo Vadis says, not if the only state is in the DB, then state is taken care of for. What kind of program doesn't have any state of its own and the only state is in the DB? If you're writing a trivial program, then do whatever you want, right? But trivial programs, you can do anything on a trivial program because it's an easy software engineering problem, right? We're talking about real software engineering problems, not like, you know, program that doesn't do anything except pass data from input to output or something. Oh God, the newest Windows feature update is here. It's trying to get me to restart. No. Could you come up with a single situation where exceptions would be acceptable? Not really. I mean, the type of exceptions I think are acceptable are panics, right? Which is the kind that I'm going to support in this language. So a panic is just, oh man, something we didn't expect went wrong, so we're going to catch it and try to recover the program and probably try to exit safely because we don't know what's going on there, right? I think that is totally reasonable. But exceptions for like file not found, or we tried to connect to the database and it was down, so connection failed, those aren't exceptions. Exceptions are for your software has a bug that we didn't catch during development. That's what exceptions are for. Or, you know, if you're making, you know, NASA planetary rovers or something, exceptions are like a cosmic ray hit the memory and it violated the constraints that we're asserting at runtime and we're going into panic mode, right? That's the useful kind of exceptions, and it's nothing like what people use exceptions for in C++. You're claiming to me that most enterprise software has no local state and the only state is in the database. I call bullshit on that. Sorry, you're not arguing in good faith, right? Because if that were true, all enterprise software would basically be the same program. It's not true. I've written enterprise software. I know what it looks like, enterprise software, as if that was like a, yeah. What problem does exceptions try to solve? Does this problem exist in your language? It's an imaginary problem. People get worked up. So the reason exceptions exist in C++ is because they existed in languages that were more on the functional end of things, I believe. And then Bjarne Strostrup wanted to put them in C++. They're very ill-fitting for an imperative language, you know, they're just a bad idea. They don't really solve a problem, right? They solve imaginary problems. They create a lot of problems, and they don't really solve any problems, actually. Now, there are some language paradigms that are different, right? So if you start using a transactional programming language that, you know, rolls back, it tries to do like a software transactional memory kind of thing, you know, and rolls back when transactions fail. It does speculative things and rolls them back and whatever. That's an exception-like behavior that starts to make sense. But those languages are very, very, very different from C++ style languages, right? They're like fully managed, you know, into oblivion, basically. And it's a very different kind of programming. And I'm not sure I like that kind of programming, but it's at least interesting to think about, you know, and it makes more sense in that kind of neighborhood. But in C-style imperative languages, just forget it. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. All right, I'm going to stop ranting. See you guys later. This will be up on YouTube later. Goodbye.